tardes, buenas noches, buenos días a todos nuestros amigos. Gracias por escucharnos. Este es su podcast favorito, Trukoholic. Trukoholic, el truco de la verdad, señores. Buenas noches, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our first podcast, nuestro primer podcast, señores, aquí en el Trukoholic, el truco de la verdad. Vamos a presentarles a los hosts de este programa. Primero vamos a empezar con las damas. Judy Erazo, bienvenida a Trukoholic.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
Bienvenido a Trukoholic.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be part of this new project. Muy feliz y esperando que este primer podcast nos salga 100% bien.
Claro que sí. Y tenemos también a nuestro amigo Harold Blanco. Bienvenido, Harold Blanco.
Gracias, muchas gracias. Apodado cariñosamente el panadero, aparentemente. Sí, muy contento. Esto es una idea que hemos hemos venido hablando desde hace mucho ya. Y realmente, finalmente le pusimos el pie y estamos comenzando. Y lo bueno es que vamos a comenzar esta conversación hablando, claro, de la pandemia, del coronavirus, el COVID-19, como quieran llamarle, pero sobre todo del impacto que ha tenido en los diferentes tipos de personas y diferentes edades y en la situación de cada quien, hablando la verdad de la realidad de cada uno. Y this time, and I have to switch to English now because we have Ben over here with us.
Benjamin.
And Natalia, of course.
Natalia.
That they're friends, and we just want to ask them a few questions about the pandemic. First of all, I know we all know that this whole thing started kind of in February, March, but what have changed? What changed back then when everything kind of stopped?
So I would like for them to introduce themselves briefly. You don't have to give too much private information, but our listeners want to know who you are, and you shared what you want to share in terms of an introduction. Let's start with the ladies first, if you don't mind, Ben.
Sure.
So, Natalia Erazo, bienvenida, Natalia Erazo.
Hey, gracias. Thank you. So my name is Natalia. Just graduated recently with my Bachelor of Arts.
Congratulations.
And I'm working at a behavioral clinic for psychology. So.
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great. And
Good.
we also have Benjamin, and I don't know your last name, so
me.
you can tell us your last name.
It's Benjamin Sheridan.
Sheridan.
I'm
Like
say again?
Like it? Like, no, is it Ed Sheridan?
Sheridan, yeah.
Ed Sheeran?
Ed Sheeran? Oh, no,
Close.
Of course.
But you
Still
sing too,
Irish.
right? And you'll probably...
I do sing quite a bit, actually.
That's good,
Yeah.
that's
You
good.
can ask her about that. I'm pretty loud. But I'm a ABA therapist, applied behavior analysis.
Oh,
I
okay.
work I'm actually a brand new hire at a daycare program for kids between the ages of 2 and 6.
No kidding.
Which I noticed that there's totally a daycare in this
Yes,
household. So
that's what we have here in the house.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys inviting me to be on the podcast. It's very cool.
Great.
Good,
Thank
good.
you so much.
So going back to the question, what you guys were doing when all these started and when kind of the whole country stopped and all the businesses shut it down and everything. What was your plan at the time? What were you about to do and you have to change? That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
What changed?
Everything.
Yeah. I'm gonna let Nathy go first.
I don't know. I mean, it's just been crazy. So, like a week before everything like closed down, I got in a really bad car accident.
Oh.
So that was like my first experience with Corona, because I was in the hospital and they had just said, oh, you can only have one visitor, but my parents just came from New York to visit me, and Ben was in the hospital with me.
Where are you living? Where were you living?
I was living in Hartford, but
Okay.
the accident was actually up here near Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So I asked the ambulance to bring me back to Hartford because it's closer to New York.
Of course.
Right.
For home.
So that day I went home. I went to New York, like, even though I had school and work and everything. And then 2 days later, my school closed down.
Wow.
So I literally just never went back to school, and now I'm a graduate, so I'm never gonna go back. So it's been, I like got kind of robbed of my senior year,
Right. I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
which kind of sucks, but
So you were able to finish whatever classes you were having online?
Online.
or something?
online, yeah.
Okay.
How was that experience? Because for someone who's, I mean, you're young, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that that's probably super normal for you. But like you just said, you were robbed of the senior year, your graduation,
Yeah,
all those moments that are
Yeah,
memorable
the
for
graduation, the
seniors.
whole thing.
yeah,
Tirando el hat para arriba y todo,
Exactly.
el hat and
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's still like hard because now I'm living here again near my school and everyone's back, but like I'm not part of it because I'm graduated. So
Right.
it's a little weird. But online classes is just like busy work, like just things so they could get grades. So it's like it's not hard. I mean, I think it's harder for like young kids, but like once you know how to finesse.
So, ooh, wow, we're seeing the pictures of the accident. That,
Oh,
oh my
yeah.
God, you're lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
I am.
Holy
Yeah.
cow! Oh my
So
goodness.
after that, so I'm usually like very like how do I say it? Like fast paced, like always doing something basically. I'm
Same.
always busy, always doing stuff. So the pandemic kind of forced me to like slow down, and like I've never been the type to like, I don't like being alone. I'm always with other people. I'm a social person. So after Corona happened, everyone just had to be alone, and like that was really hard for me like mentally because I was just not used to that, and it's just something that I've been working on for like a while now, is like how to be alone.
Wow.
So coronavirus really put me in that situation of like, you know, you have to spend time with yourself and you really have to like figure something out. So
Yeah.
Wow.
And I missed her a lot
Oh.
because we went from seeing each other mostly every other day to the car crash
Quarantine.
happened, and I thought, okay, well, at least I can still travel to
Yeah.
see her and
Right.
stuff.
You don't
But
live in Hartford too, or?
I lived in Hartford, but she went back to New York.
Ah, yeah, when you went back to New York,
So-
of course, yeah,
I went probably a month and a half before I saw her again.
yeah.
It was a very heartwarming reunion.
That's good.
And
For those
then
who are
we-
listening over there, if you haven't figured it out, there are a couple.
Yeah. And then we ended up deciding like we just want to be closer together, so we ended up moving in together.
Yeah, in
and stuff.
June we moved here.
That's
My
good.
parents were like,
Mhm.
"No, stay home, please. We'll pay for everything."
I want those parents.
They were like, "Yeah, we'll pay for everything. Don't go." I was like,
My parents were kicking me
It's
out.
time-
They were
yeah.
they were tired of me.
Oh yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. What about Ben? What can you tell us? You like to be alone?
right.
Well, I enjoy my alone time a little bit more than Nati does,
Yeah.
to be honest. But when pandemic happened, I was working with a company called Public Allies, which is kind of like social justice
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
They had me doing tons of different kinds of work. It's very hard to just pinpoint like one thing that we're doing there, but everything stopped. I had a whole project going where we were going to try to get resources for homeless individuals together and have like a little fair where everybody comes together and shares the resources with the homeless community, and all of that stopped. We couldn't do any of that
Oh, my
anymore.
God.
So we ended up being able to open a telehealth line where we would stay on the phone with individuals who called us and asked about
Yeah.
whatever their concerns were with the pandemic. If they were just anxious and needed
Yeah.
somebody to talk to and didn't have money for a therapist, we were a free line that you could call. So we ended
So
up.
that was a project that intentionally was to do kind of face-to-face help, and you guys ended up switching over to phones.
And we couldn't do anything with the homeless community because like there wasn't any. You can't do telehealth with them, and our program managers were telling us we can't do anything that's going to put you in harm's way of the coronavirus right now because we don't know how bad it can be.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. We weren't even meeting in person anymore. So
were you working from home or were you still?
I was working from home, but the work was so different. It essentially was non-existent. And I worked out every day for a month straight with Nati because we were both just so bored and needed something to do. So I have actually been working out consistently since April. So that's kind of nice. I guess the pandemic gave me that.
Okay.
But
well, the pandemic gave me food, so I gained probably 20 pounds. So that's the opposite. Yeah, that's the opposite.
And Judy, for those who don't know, our co-host is a marathon runner, so
yeah.
So that's probably super hard for her.
That's true. Those extra pounds, yeah.
Wow. So my question, I guess, is also because there's a lot of negative, obviously, with this pandemic, and a lot of getting used to because it's a new world, it's a new reality. But do you think of anything positive, if any, that this change brought to you personally, in terms of your life now?
I'm happy to say that my state is handling it better than other states in in America, and I'm happy
Connecticut?
to say, Connecticut has pretty low numbers. Vermont has lower numbers than us, but we were leading for a little while.
Yeah,
and I was happy to see that
and I think
the government that ran for my
I agree.
worked,
I totally agree with
like
you.
They were doing their job in a good way.
That's
true. That I wanted them to.
I agree with you because Connecticut and Massachusetts, we were proactive, seeing so close what was happening in New York.
And New York.
Yeah.
And seeing what they were doing, trying this, trying that, and doing, and seeing the numbers every day going crazy. So we were able to react to and kind of compress.
I think the entire Northeast region, starting with New York, and I have to give it to Mario Cuomo, and we don't want to get political here, but I love him because I think that he did an excellent job. And I think I have to agree with Ben on what he said. I think the Northeast, being hit first, and New York especially, New Jersey, New York, being hit first was something that we didn't know. Nobody knew what to do. What it was, how to handle it. How I think we did an excellent job, and we tried to let the other states know, and nobody listened. But that's another that political topic is for another podcast that we're having in a few weeks, which it's going to be an interesting one.
But I'm thinking, Natalia, you mentioned that you have to learn how to be alone.
Yeah.
And in generic terms, being alone, it's kind of a sad or bad thing. And you're saying that you have to learn to it. Did you gain anything positive out of it? Or,
of course. So, I mean, I think...
What's the benefit out of it?
I think everyone, it's like at some point you're alone. So, it's important to know yourself and be able to hang out by yourself, which is something that, like, I'm recently learning. Because I never really had hobbies. I just did sports. So if there were no sports...
So we're talking about because you were so used to your mommy picking up after you, and now you have to do it yourself. Is that what you're talking about? That's what it is. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. What's going on with this chat?
No, my parents were not that like that. I just am very social, so I just got used to always having friends. Okay. I was like really popular in high school and college, so like being alone for me gave me a lot of stress. Like it just made me think about bad things, and like it was it was just very negative for me
emotionally
and mentally. So I would just my first 3 years of college, I would just at all points avoid being alone.
Wow.
So like if I had to go eat, I had to find somebody to eat with. I cannot eat alone. If I had to go somewhere after class, like it was just something that I like really maintained, is that I'm not alone, because then it kept me from having bad thoughts and being sad. So then once I was forced into it, you know, it was hard at first, especially having to move back home. But, you know, I think it's something that everyone has to learn to do, is just accept themselves. And
I think when Nati said that, just to backtrack a little bit, you said that you didn't have any hobbies, and I don't think that's true. I think your hobby is traveling, which is heavily impacted by the
that is my
coronavirus.
hobby. Yeah.
Well, that's true. I think that happened to us too.
Yeah.
So my graduation gift from my mom was supposed to be, we were gonna go to Spain, South France, Italy. We had the whole thing planned out, and like right when Corona happened, I'm like, buy the flight. It's so cheap. Like, let's do it. Like, I did not care. And then it just kept getting worse and worse. And like, so I'm like so ready to travel. And like, we were talking about positives. So for me, like something positive out of this, like I've been able to save, and like I paid off all my credit debt, my credit cards. I had like
everybody has done that.
It's been really great financially. And like, I don't have a car because of the car accident I was in. So now I do telehealth, and that's perfect for me because I can't drive. I mean, I don't have a vehicle, so it's been pretty great.
I think that whole telehealth and that whole telecommunication stuff, it's excellent. In my perspective in this is, a lot of the companies used to think about it twice before letting folks work from home. And the kind of job I normally do, my regular full-time job, I can do it from anywhere as long as I have internet connection. And I remember every single company I worked for, I always had to ask, like, can I have a day from work or a couple of days from work? And it was always a pushback from the company. And I think now they've realized, first of all, we weren't ready for it. I think a lot of places in America are not ready for telecommuting.
The schools are not ready.
And the schools are not, and it's a shame that we're not. But I think that this has taught us that, first of all, we have to be ready for that. And I think, for example, places like Hartford and New York and Jersey City, New Jersey, where there's a lot of office space and it's extremely expensive. I think companies have to realize now that you don't need all that real estate.
Yeah, you don't.
Half your people can work from home, and even more than 60% of your people can work from home as long as they have a dedicated internet connection. And I think now they're realizing that, hey, it could be done because they were forced to do that. Another positive that I find is, that whole 6 feet apart. To me, it's perfect. I don't like it when it's too crowded. So I'm on a bus or whatever, I like my space. So 6 feet for me is more than enough. I mean, it's perfect.
And also with the mask is cool because like now you can just go out and not worry about anything.
Makeup or anything.
They're actually
there's
a I don't know if it was a study or an article that I was reading, but it was just about a lot of individuals that had social anxiety talking about how they enjoy wearing the masks because they don't have to worry about like social interactions with individuals. They realize like they could just walk by these people without saying anything. It kind of acts as like a shield to allow them to be more comfortable in a public setting, which I think is kind of a nice idea.
I see that different. For me, that's different. I don't like the mask because I'm the kind of guy that I express myself with my face and movements, my hands and all that. So
some people are really against the mask.
When I'm like when I'm going out and somebody do nice something to, or let's say they hand me a coffee, I'm Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, I usually say the thank you with a smile. I cannot do that now. I can say thank you for sure.
And you can still smile behind the mask.
I'm smiling, but
shut.
The girl is not looking at me.
You
smiling,
can do a Chinese smile. That's about it.
That's true.
To me, it was fine. I mean, when I'm in crowded places, and I love New York and I work in New York, but if it gets too crowded, I get that anxiety. And So now that the fact that there's so much space, like I went to eat finally to a restaurant that opened 25% capacity yesterday, and it was great. There's enough space for me, so that I think the only thing
Was the food the same?
no,
Ah,
no, no. The
because that's
food.
my problem
First
right
of all,
now.
they used to serve a lot, and now they serve a lot less.
25%.
Probably because there's only 25% capacity, so they have to give less. Not only that, what I noticed too, which I'm picky about, is the drinks. We asked for a margarita, and because of health issues, they don't give it to you in the regular glass, margarita glass,
No.
because they have to
No.
wash it
Yeah.
and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So to me, it doesn't
Yeah.
taste the same.
It doesn't taste the same.
So those are a few things that I noticed. The one thing that I got to tell you that that affected me negatively was when I had to go to the supermarket at the very beginning of the pandemic. We ordered our groceries online, and it was perfect. And we used to do it because I don't like being in big crowds in the supermarket or whatever. And this time we couldn't order anything. There was no availability for the delivery. So we had to go to a supermarket. And for the first time in my life, I had to stand in line to go inside the grocery store and then find out that some of the items I wanted to buy were not there.
No toilet paper.
No toilet paper.
Yeah.
That was a dark time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
well,
you know what?
so
The funny
paper.
thing
And a
for me
stupid
was,
time,
but
too,
you know
I
what the
think.
funny thing for me was, and it was a personal thing. I had never experienced that, but I wasn't born in America. I was born in Cuba, and I came here when I was 10 years old. But my parents had to endure that most of their life.
Yeah, most of their life, yeah.
And for that first time in my life, I realized as an adult what my parents went through.
Every
in
single
Cuba.
day when they
Every
were growing
single
up.
day,
Yeah, when they were
this
living
was
over
the
there.
thing for them. Standing in line, getting to
Yeah.
getting to the place,
Yeah.
and then finding out that
Wow.
you stood in line for so many hours and you couldn't find what you wanted.
Wow.
And that day, I went home and I cried. And I cried and I cried in the
Wow.
supermarket. And Ivana couldn't understand why I was crying, but I think it was a combination of many things. It was just the whole
Yeah,
stress
the
of the
whole-
pandemic, and then being hit with that. Similar to what happened to you, you don't like being alone, and all of a sudden you had to be alone. I don't like being in crowds, and even though that there were,
Like
social distances was in place, that whole thing of waiting online and the whole thing of going in there and
not
being
finding
used to
the
finding
things.
anything, and then all of a sudden you don't find any of the items that you went to buy.
Seeing the shelf like
The
empty.
shelves empty.
I wanna go back to the job situation for the two of you, because both of you, if I got this correctly, you recently started jobs, right? Employment.
Yeah.
So was it difficult to get a new job in this pandemic, or was it easy to have it? Did you get it through a connection, or was it something that you applied online, or because it's different situation for everybody?
Yeah, for my situation, it's a little different because ABA therapists, it's really hard to find males in the field.
Okay.
So I applied for a job, and within a couple of hours, I was getting people hitting me up for job interviews
so it's
really
a high
quick.
demand for male.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of guys doing the work. So I haven't had any problems finding a job, but I feel like my situation just kind of doesn't encapture what happened with the pandemic, because it's just it's a different situation. So
Okay.
Interesting.
How about
It's
you?
like, finding a male nurse.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's related.
it's-
Okay, it's
Mhm.
cool. Like,
Yeah.
Good.
So for me, it was actually great that I got to quarantine because I spent every day of March, every single day I applied to a new job. So I
Okay.
spent all of quarantine applying for jobs. It was actually really nice
good.
being able to slow down and take a second to do the things that I always wanted to do. If that makes sense.
Do you think that the pay? And I don't want you to talk about how much you're making or anything like
Yeah.
that. But
but
do you think that
ask her
you're
because
getting-
I want to know.
I'll tell
I
you how much I
invested.
make.
I also invested in that.
no? What I'm trying to think is, are companies paying less now because of the pandemic and the situation, or are you think you're getting whatever you would get without the pandemic? I mean, because I'm thinking that there's a lot of, and in your case it's different because you just said that there's not a lot of male in your field, but
they actually, I was working with a different company before the one that I'm with at the current moment, but I was asking for I think $17.50 an hour, and they decided to give me $18, and I was looking for a job with in-home care, and they decided to give me a 9 to 4 at their daycare program. So they ended up actually paying me more than I was expecting.
Wow.
And I'm very grateful for the situation that I'm in.
That's good.
That's good.
Should we take a quick break?
Yes.
Let's take a quick break, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Break.
Hola amigos, hoy quiero hablarles de Anchor. Si no han oído hablar de Anchor, es la forma más sencilla de crear un podcast. Déjame explicarles. Es completamente gratis. Existen herramientas de creación que te permiten grabar y editar tu podcast directamente desde tu teléfono móvil o desde tu computadora. Anchor distribuye tu podcast para que se escuche a través de Spotify, Apple Podcasts y muchos más. Puedes incluso ganar dinero con tu propio podcast y sin mínimo de audiencia. Es todo lo que se necesita para hacer un podcast en un solo lugar. Descarga ahora mismo la aplicación gratis Anchor o a través de anchor.fm para comenzar. Okay guys, welcome back to Trukoholic. Bienvenidos otra vez a Trukoholic. Tuvimos un tiempecito para tomar un poquito de agua. Now we're gonna wrap up with this podcast. You okay there, Harold?
No sé qué es lo que le
I think
pasa.
you had more than water.
I think he was drinking.
Yo creo
too
que
much.
sí.
That was more than
It wasn't water here.
Yeah.
So we're back.
The margarita.
We're back with our special guest today, Ben
In
and
Natalia.
Natalia.
Hello.
So we were talking about the pandemic, and I think we're going to wrap up. I think this has been an interesting episode. For our first episode, we had amazing guests, and I just wanted to. Julie hasn't said anything. I don't know if she's going to plan to say anything.
No.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So,
No, but really, thank you very much for, first of all, joining us in this adventure that we're starting up. And as you can see, this is just conversation we want to have to different people about different topics and about the truth of different topics, the reality of the people, what was going through. And I really thank you. You guys are telling us what was your experience, and we can see that you guys learn from this what's happening right now, what's been happening, and we really enjoy it.
Thank you so much for having us. That was really exciting. I've never been on a podcast before.
We'll let you know we're going there, and
we would let you know. I think I want to just echo what Harold was just saying, that thank you so much for taking the time. I'm sure you could do many other things today on a Saturday. We're recording this, so thank you so much for taking the time to be here and for sharing your experience with COVID. And I wish you both the best of luck in your career, and hopefully this thing will pass and things will come to some sort of normalcy in the future.
And you know now where my house is, so you can come in anytime.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You can come even more after your wins from today.
Yeah. I heard you guys are
Your
going
doors
to the
even
casinos
open.
now.
Yeah,
so.
right. Even more.
Yeah.
I'll hit
true.
you up next weekend. We'll party.
There you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank
We do have Naked Sundays here.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to.
We have that.
Okay. In case.
That's awesome.
That's gonna be in the next podcast, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you
Naked
so
Sundays.
much.
Thank you
Coming
so
up.
much. Bueno amigos, hemos llegado al final. Ya saben, muchas gracias por escuchar a Trukoholic, el truco de la verdad. Y recuerden amigos, la verdad no mancha los labios de quien la dice, sino la conciencia de quien la oculta.